Good morning, watch nerds, especially on this day of my 100th video. The Coast Watch Company was or is based in Denmark, but I'm not really sure if it still exists. Although there is a Facebook page, but no website. Now, according to their Facebook page, there is some stock left of these watches, so if you do fancy one after watching my review, perhaps you might want to order one. Now, the watch came in 3 iterations: a fixed bezel version, a bi-directional GMT bezeled version, and this 120 click diver's bezel version. I think it's also originally came in 3 different colours, this being the bronze. Now, I've had a look on YouTube, and this isn't just the only version of this watch that's been reviewed, but it's the only production model as well. Now, from what I can gather, it originally sold for about $599, which doesn't make it cheap, but I believe for what you get, this watch actually is a bit of a bargain. Although a few years old, this watch was unworn when I bought it, and I picked it up for less than £400. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Coast Pacific Explorer. So this is the case it arrived in. No box, no cleaning cloth, no instructions, and that's it really. To be fair though, it's a really nice wax leather. Now, I've already mentioned that although this watch was never actually worn when I received it, it was technically second hand. Now, I believe there was an option to buy it with a 3-unit watch roll, so I presume that wasn't taken up. So as usual, let's have a look at the dimensions. Well, it's got a case size of 39mm, a lug width of 20mm, a depth of 12mm, which includes a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating, a lug to lug 47mm, and once adjusted to fit my 17cm wrist, it weighs about 142 grams. Now, in my opinion, the watch does wear a little bit larger, more like a 40 I'd say. Inside of the heart of the watch is the automatic high beat Sellita SW200. I don't know if this is the standard or the elaborate version though, but from experience I've noticed little or no difference in the regulation. I should warn you though, there is a ghost position, albeit that's not something that's ever bothered me. It's an excellent Swiss made movement that ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour. It hacks, it hand winds, and it's got a power reserve of 38 hours. These are known for their reliability and can be extremely accurate. I can tell you that in real life this one is actually running at about plus 15 seconds a day, which is a little bit fast, so I'm going to let it settle down, and maybe at a later date I might just regulate it. Anyway, let's see what the time grapher thinks of it. And there we are, dial down, all looks very healthy. A 0 beat error, a very good amplitude. It's running a tad fast, but it's not bad. I'll let it settle down, and at some point I may regulate it. The unguarded crown is 7mm, signed, is nicely nailed, and it screws in. The engagement when being screwed in is actually very good, but not as buttery smooth as say a Christopher Ward. However, it operates the movement as you would expect, perfectly. Apparently the owners of the brand tried 7 different cases before settling on this one. This is actually quite unusual. Now, the very tops of the lugs are finely brushed, but then they quickly transition to a polished surface. It then drops down to a satin finished side. Now, the brand owner described this case as being pebble shaped, which I think is actually quite accurate. Now, I think the case on this thing is stunning. Now, the lug to lug is a tad longer than I would normally like, but because of the very nice shaping, I believe it sits well on my 17cm wrist. The Rolex style screw down case pack helps its claim 200 metres of water resistance. Now, it's deeply embossed with the Windrose logo, and it's got some basic information engraved around the edges. I'm so glad they didn't go with the exhibition case back. You may be forgiven for thinking it was the dial that drew me to this watch, and as nice as the dial is, it wasn't. Now, I'm no lover of bronze watches, but I think having a bronze bezel on a stainless steel case looks absolutely fantastic. Now, the insert is loomed, and it's a brushed ceramic, so you don't have to worry about scratches. It's a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and the resistance is just about perfect. There's no back play or wobble, but my only minor complaint is some of the alignment. Everything lines up perfectly apart from the 3, the 4, the 5 and the 6. Anyway, I'm sure you're dying to have a little listen. It goes without saying that this is an Explorer type dial, but that's just about where any similarity ends to any other watch, especially as this dial is of the sandwich variety. There is a minute track on the outer part of the gorgeous Fume brushed bronze dial, and then this leads into the sunken indices. Under the 12 o'clock is the company logo and Coast printed in white, and above the 6 o'clock it reads Pacific Explorer 20 atoms. I would describe the hands as being Dauphin-esque, if you know what I mean, and like the indices, they're filled with a very nice application of C1 X1 lume. Now I charged this lume before I went to bed, and much to my surprise, it was still perfectly legible 8 hours later. Anyway, here's a clip of that lume. I think it's good Coast didn't plumb for an oyster style bracelet and decided to put this rather nice flat link Jubilee on it instead. Now it's got solid end links as you would expect, and the added advantage of quick release spring bars. That's great because I believe this watch would look great on a whole selection of different straps, especially a nice brown leather vintage one I reckon. Now it tapers down from 20mm to 16mm, then back up to 18mm for the clasp. Adjustment is made via some very nicely engineered screw pins. Honestly, this was a complete doddle to resize, and it's a very comfortable bracelet. The clasp is pretty much what you'd expect, although an on-the-fly version would have been even nicer. It's milled, it's got double pushers, it's all brushed, and it's signed. Now I've watched a few videos on the prototype and the original clasp was a friction fit, so well done to Coast for changing it. So what do I think of the Coast Pacific Explorer? Well, apparently this took the company 3 years to develop and bring to the market via a Kickstarter campaign. The overall quality, specification and finish leaves you believing it's very unlikely you'll ever find a watch as good as this for a lesser price. In actual fact, even if I paid the full price, it still would have been a fair bit cheaper than say my Seiko Alpinist. If I'm honest, it blows that out of the water. That said, my Alpinist will hold its price quite well. This probably won't, but that's the micro brand market for you. So would I recommend this watch? Of course I bloody would. It's lovely. And I've got a gut feeling this may well be a keeper. That brings me to the end of this review, so if you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and get all your friends and relatives to do the same. Leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.